Okay, let's move on to the last one, which is share. And this is probably, well, prepare is probably the easiest for us as teachers, I think. It can be anyway, because we're the content experts. We know what they need to know. But share is like, have them bring something back. And again, we might jump back a few steps. Once they brought something back, we might jump back and do something with what they brought back. Hopefully you do. This may not be the end-all be-all of this whole thing. But they're probably in this process, they're going to decide what do I need to share. So they're going to be up towards the top, they're going to evaluate, or they're going to be synthesizing some information that they've learned, and they're going to say, these are the concepts that I saw in this video, and then they're sharing that. So that could be a reflection where they're doing the step before, they're analyzing their own life, and then they're sharing that. That could be class-wide, that could be just between the professor and the student. I do a reflection. I'm sure students hate my classes because we write a reflection every week. But for me, a reflection every week is a quick, formative assessment on where they're at in their learning. Like, what did you get out of class? And if I get a whole bunch of, well, I didn't really get anything out of class this week, was that their problem or is that my problem? If I get a whole bunch of them, it's probably my problem. If I get one or two, then maybe I need to tweak a little bit, but it's probably their problem. So what might sharing, and I know you guys have given some great examples, but how do you have students share something in class, between you, between the whole class, whatever?
Well, with my Bible example I used earlier, I have them bring in their church's statement of belief, or if they don't have a church, I tell them just pick
Find
one.
Right.
You know, I don't care, pick one. And then I group them together into groups intentionally with different denominations. So some Nazarenes, some Baptists, some Catholics, some
Right.
non-denom people, whatever,
Right.
all in one group. And then have them look at the statements, swap them, and then I have a list of questions for them to start asking about it. But, you know, basically to compare and contrast those and say, oh, yours has this language in it or has this word and mine doesn't. I wonder what that means. And
Right.
then they share that, and then we go into the analysis. Actually, the analysis and the sharing are kind of circular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And so then we
right.
start analyzing it together when their group presents, saying, okay, well, what is the significance of this one has this word and this one doesn't? What's the concept they're trying to get at when they talk about inerrancy over here and they don't talk about it over here? What does that mean?
So it sounds to me like in your class you're probably doing more of a discover, share, analyze, prepare, because now they're beginning to understand what a statement of belief about the Bible means and how they differ, and then you can go on and
Because we do
teach the
build on
concept.
that, so I guess
Right.
that is preparation in some
Right.
sense for what we do.
Right.
Yeah, that makes, yeah.
What else? What other ways do you guys share in your classes, or have you seen shared in your classes?
I like what,
No, go ahead.
I like what you do, you have them, I guess you teach them information and then they get to make a video and express.
They have done some of that, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's so powerful for them and to others, those who look at the videos.
So yeah, absolutely. Creating a video as a video reflection for the week or something. Again, I'll harp on my video class before. Videos don't have to be a big production. It can be something really quick that you just make, and it's a one-on-one or it's a one-on-several, where you just make a quick short little thing, you post to YouTube, you post a link. And then people get to decide which one they want to watch, or which one they want to talk about, or who they want to engage in conversation with. Rhonda, you had something else you were going to say? Sorry.
In most of our modules, our students present in Module 2, specifically they present one of the life learning papers they chose to write. But also within that presentation, they have to share an aha moment, basically,
Oh,
that
right.
they got from the textbook or from discussion or whatever. And
Right.
and then they have to give advice to the class.
So the other way that you can think about share in the context of evaluation is deciding what to share. Because my aha moment may be completely different than your aha moment. But if we're sharing that collectively, then probably we all benefit, because I'm gonna benefit from hearing your aha moment, because maybe I just glazed over that in the prep part of what we did in class or through the reading or whatever. So collective sharing, I'm a big fan of, even though I know you're probably talking more about sharing one-on-one with the instructor. But if we do that in class, that's a positive thing, collective sharing.
That's how we use the discussion forums in the online classes, and the students have to post maybe something they like, why they like it, why it's valuable, then the students respond to it and question their criteria or whatever.
Anything that has students evaluating something and you discuss the criteria by which they're evaluating, I just really think that's a powerful, powerful learning tool. You know, if you think about different students and how they perceive what it is that they're learning in your class, then collective sharing is a positive thing, because we're all learning things, different styles, different strengths, and so on. What else? Anything else? It should say have students share the relevancy. Like, how is this relevant to your life? How do you see you using this? Because what if we changed Algebra 1, maybe the state superintendent will see this. I do know her. I should call her. What if we changed Algebra 1 and say, how are you going to use this later in life? Because I've seen so many memes on the internet about, yep, there was another day I didn't use Algebra 1. You know, they're told that their whole life. So that's what they expect. You're never going to see this again. Why in the world am I learning it?
I asked a math teacher once in 8th grade what the use of something was, and I was serious. I wasn't trying to be a smart mouth.
Right.
I got yelled at for 5 minutes.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And we've got to change that, and I think that's one of the ills, and we're not here to solve the ills of all education, but I think that is one of the ills of education, is students don't understand why they need to know what they need to know. You know, we just need to cram information in their head.
That's one of the things I was going to say. A lot of the examples are related to things that are either vocational in nature or personal in nature.
Right.
I teach a lot of stuff that is pretty abstract.
Absolutely.
And or it's things like modern Middle Eastern politics. How do you convince, and do you have enough energy to convince people?
Energy or time? That's a great question. And I mean, the only way that I can connect relevancy and something like that is, what is the underlying theme of what happened here, and how is that, you know, how does that affect what's happening? Did you say modern Middle Eastern?
Yeah.
Okay, so modern Middle Eastern, like, what are the effects on other people? But like, we've seen this happening before. I just, every time I think about history, it's the, you know, those that don't know it are doomed to repeat it. Well, it's the underlying theme. If we don't look at what's going on now, or understand what's going on now, or understand what happened previously, then we're going to make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's a great question, and that's about as good of an answer as I could give.
I think news articles would be one way, like the bombing thing. Apparently, the people they're tracking down are Chechens who immigrated,
But
so we can bring in all the
I've got a lot
Chechen
of
stuff.
students that don't listen to the news.
Right.
They're sort of living in some little world inside their heads.
And
you know?
so,
That's back in Discovery.
right, that's what I was going to say. That I would go back to Discovery and have them find something that is, and depending on what the concept is, it probably you're going to have to do a bit more guiding on some things. If it's more of a you talked about abstract. If it's more abstract, they need more guidance on where to go to discover these things. Like, what are the key terms they need to search for? Or, you know, you might even need to talk about how Google will, like, Google has a lens that, and I'm sure you guys probably know this, what have you clicked on? What has everyone else clicked on? But EBSCOhost, it's going to give you the best match to the terms that you put in there. And how did you say, is it an and, is it an or, is it a with, is it a instead of? So again, that they may need a bit more guidance in their discovery on that, but I would say thinking like thematically what was happening or is happening, where has it happened before, how's it happening now, what effect is it happening? So,
I can still
say that
You
again.
can still work those in with
I think you really could. with sharing, it's like making the learning personal for the student, and that's the best time to share that, because what's personal for you is going to be different than what's personal for me. Whether it's what's happening in the Middle East, whether it's what your church has to say, whether it's what your life learning paper is, etc. Or whether it's what you think is art. The whole purpose of this is we want to move what we're doing, or at least where we're going. Maybe we don't need to move everything that we're doing to the top of the pyramid, because you can't just have students evaluating all the time. You can't just have them synthesizing. They have to have something to synthesize. So there's a place to start. So really this could be a discussion about Bloom's taxonomy. But we want to have the place that we're going to evaluation and synthesis. We want to move away from, and what I term pure preparation is just delivery of information. Our purpose is not to overhaul, in parentheses, all of. Maybe there's a course or two that we should consider reducing. Let students construct a bit more, and let us stand back and be a bit more of a facilitator. I've done far more talking today than I should have. What questions do you guys have about anything? Go ahead, Ron.
I have one. I came to this seminar mainly for this reason.
Okay.
I kind of would like to get some input and ideas on what you do with discovery, or how you deal with discovery when students bring in things
That are not appropriate.
Yeah, or
Or that are not-
it's clear they didn't understand what they were supposed to do.
Right,
And so
right.
then what they bring in is unusable, and so then we never really get to the analysis part for
Right.
them anyway, because they didn't bring in something appropriate. And I try to do some preparation with
Right,
that, to,
right.
you know, like for the example, for the Bible statement, a faith thing. I try in the class period before that to go online and literally show them, okay,
Right.
here's an official website from the United Methodist Church or whatever. Here's where you'd find their statement of belief. Here's what a statement of belief looks like. So that hopefully they have a clue. But I still have people who come in with things that are,
So maybe
Yeah.
the thing that you can do, and this might require an extra class period, is whatever students bring in, then they break up into small groups, and everyone in the group evaluates that as, is that a statement of belief about the Bible or
yeah,
not?
I might have
And
thought about
so then you're taking and you're kind of weeding the things out. It's nothing personal.
Yeah.
It's just we need to all be on
Yeah.
the same page about what our criteria are that
Right.
we're, because in that case,
Mhm.
you know, I said maybe our criteria are different, but in that case, we probably should all be on the same page.
I've had the same problem in online classes where they're required to go and find videos or something and then
Right.
post a link to it.
Right.
And some of them are really good and some of them are just not.
Right.
And, I mean, I get that you can use that as an exercise in evaluation.
Compare and contrast.
But I
absolutely.
just sometimes wonder, how do we maximize the quality of the stuff that they bring?
Or something. Eileen, were you gonna add something?
Oh, I had three things, I guess. I was just thinking rubric came to mind, if it was an item that's being graded, and you were kind of alluding to that. Or peer evaluation, have them break into groups
Mhm.
and share what they brought, and then have them peer evaluate what each other brought.
Trade, right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And-
and you have to
and
give them
that's-
pretty good guidance on peer evaluation though, don't you? Because I found that some of them seem hesitant to evaluate each other.
They are very hesitant because
Yeah.
it comes off as personal or
Right.
critical, and so they're probably, you'd need to have something before where they've done that a little bit before.
Mhm.
But definitely some guidance on what peer evaluation looks like. Like,
Right.
we're not trying to rip their paper apart or criticize their
Mhm.
viewpoint or whatever. These are the criteria that, you know, so like you said,
Right.
getting on the same page
Okay.
as far as criteria goes.
Okay.
Go
I
ahead.
guess I did have a question about time and
Sure.
discovery. Because we had an activity once where I worked before, it was a skills lab, and we had a set amount of time, like 45 minutes, for students to go into this one lab about heart caths and balloon pumps,
Right,
and to get an idea of it before they go off to really do critical care.
right,
So we used to be in there showing it, explaining it, and then we made little charts, that made it a little bit more interactive, and then it was redesigned to be more constructivism, so that they just go in there with nobody and have
Right.
them discover what's it for and how it works.
Right.
But to me, in 45 minutes,
right,
that's dangerous, because they're not gonna figure it out.
right.
So I just wonder about time and technology, or importance. I mean, it seems like constructive, sometimes that doesn't work, I don't know.
So-
That was my opinion.
Well, no, and that's a fantastic question because again, like we talked about, this doesn't have to be linear, but to go back to, oops, I went way too far back. To go back to this very first slide about prepare is like, what are the basic concepts they need to understand?
Right.
Because if you sent me in to look at that stuff
It would
and I
be
have
just like
no
that.
idea
It would
about
be
it,
just like
I
that.
have no clue,
Yeah.
I'm probably not gonna get anything out of it. So
And
it's
we almost
that,
need a guiding question or something
Right.
to help them know where
Right.
to start.
The basic concepts.
right, because like students need to have some sort of lens to look through. Sometimes pure discovery is a good thing. There are definitely some places in science
Right.
where if there's an underlying concept, but in a skills place like that, I could see that there
Yeah.
probably needs to be a little bit of preparation
Yeah.
ahead of time. So,
So some places that constructivism works really well, and
Right.
some places that,
absolutely.
that was my idea of it. So.
Absolutely, that's an excellent point. And again, this is a guideline that we want to apply to several different content areas. So I'm glad that you guys have all had good questions and good things to bring to the table, because we're a broad range of content folks. Anything else before we close? We're right at 2 o'clock, so you guys did great. I mean, I thought about this today. I thought, wow, I've only got like 12 slides. And I know that there have been ones before where I've had like 37 slides or something. It's amazing how, I mean, you guys really did a great job of presenting this information. You really did, because you brought some great things to the table, things that you do, questions that you have about
We were
this.
prepared in discovery.
Yes, you were, absolutely. You have been preparing your whole teaching
That's
career
right.
for this session right here.
And we
So-
share.
That's right, and you do a great job of sharing, and I'm very appreciative. Okay, if you guys want to stay and have individual questions, that's great. If you have technical issues, those of you that are teaching online right now, I'll be here for a few minutes. I do have to go.